I don't know if it's been published here in Sweden, but a couple years before The World of Ice and Fire, there was the map book, The Lands of Ice and Fire. Have any of you seen that? Has that been published here? It's not actually a book. It's a book-like object that's a box, and inside there are these poster-sized maps. This is how the novels get delayed with stuff like this. Let me tell you. So, my publisher comes to me, and they say, "We want to do a book just of the maps. We want to make posters of the maps, and we'll pay you a lot of money, and you won't have to do any work because we'll just take the maps and we'll blow them up to poster size." And issue them. We'll do them in color, and they'll be real nice, and we'll get professional map makers. And I said, "Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, send me a lot of money, and you do that, and I'll just keep writing my books." And then they say, I signed a contract, and I get a lot of money, and months pass, and then I get a call and saying, "We took the maps that were in the books, and we blew them up to poster size. There's an awful lot of blank space on them." And they don't look very good. Could you fill in some more rivers and mountains and towns and stuff like that? So I'm making up mountains, I'm making up towns. It's harder than you think, You gotta kind of make sense of the geography, and the rivers have to flow in the right direction, and you gotta name everything, which is pretty damn tough, because all the good names have been used in fantasy here, unless you make up names that are just like nonsense syllables, which you can do, of course. A lot of fantasy writers do. They have just horrible names that obviously have been generated on the internet by a fantasy name generator. I've tried to use those, and they're great if you want everybody named Grizdazzle. But otherwise, you find yourself, okay, mountains here. There'll be, let's see, the Misty Mountains. No, oh, wait a minute, Tolkien used the Misty Mountains. There'll be the Rocky Mountains. Oh, no, there really are Rocky Mountains. The Pointy Mountains. That's stupid, no. And you wind up going until you finally come up with a good name for the mountains. And filling in north and south, well, my maps of those were pretty detailed already, but I did have to make them even more detailed because now they're blown up to poster size. But then I have to fill in Essos. And Essos, there was a lot less. And, my map of the Dothrak I see, there was an 8.5, 11 piece of paper on which I had Vise Dothrak, and the rest said Dothrak I see. So I had like a blank, I got to invent a lot of stuff for that here. So I'm filling that in. And on the edge of the map, on the edge of all the maps that I had drawn up to that point, was the city of Karth, where Dany reaches and has adventures, and then she turns around. She's been going in one direction, now she turns around and goes back the other way, making her way back toward Westeros. But there's a scene in one of the books where Xaro's own Doxos comes to Dany, and he presents her with a huge tapestry of the world, in which the city Karth is at the center. This, of course, implies that there's as much to the east of Karth as there is to the west of Karth. So now my publisher's saying, well, what about what's to the east of Karth? People have read about this tapestry. They want to see the rest of the world here. And so now I'm drawing what's on the other side of Karth, which led to an interesting discrepancy because I had some very early primitive maps about what's on the other side of Karth, and I gave those maps to HBO at a certain point, and HBO started issuing maps which used those maps. But when I was doing the map book, I looked at those maps and said, this doesn't work. I don't like this. I don't like the way it's out. And I completely threw those out, and I redesigned everything east of Karth into something that I like a lot better. So the Game of Thrones world is significantly different from the Ice and Fire world, and even if it's basic geography, because of that change. But then, I had blank pages east of Karth, so I filled it in, and with rivers and mountains and valleys and dead cities and live cities and making as much east of Carth as was west of Carth, so we could have maps of it. And I ran out of names, you know. At the end here, I was making tributes. I put in Carcosa, which I figured nobody would get because it's a really obscure reference. I didn't know True Detective was going to pick up the fucking thing a couple years later. And I put up Kadath by the Great Wayside. These are Lovecraftian references and all that. But little tip of the hat to H.P. Lovecraft. So I put all that in. You know, the story was never going to go there. I figured, it's just a map. I'll put in a little obscure thing. Some of the real hardcore fans will get a kick out of it. Yep. And that's fine. So the map book comes out, and I've done all this time inventing cities and mountains and filling in maps. And I think I'm never going to have to worry about it. Well, here comes the World of Ice and Fire. And here comes the notes. Well, what about Yeti? We need an article about Yeti. What are you going to say about the Jogos Nye? You better tell us something about that. So now I'm writing entire articles on the history of these places that I kind of had to invent in order to have something on the map, because I said the tapestry I had Carth in the middle. But you know, once I get into it, it was fun. You know, I'm inventing, you know, I mean, I could probably go off and write stories set in Yeti with all of the various colored emperors, and I'm inventing, and, you know, great emperors and weird emperors and stuff like that, and the history of Leng and all of that. So that was cool. That's another thing I stole from Lovecraft. You know, when you steal from one previous writer, that's plagiarism, but when you steal from many of them, it's research. So keep that in mind.